After 14 years of metal and supervised mayhem, the music's almost over at the Bendigo. This weekend, the pub called Last Drinks.
Mathematically, you don't have a choice. But emotionally, it was a hard decision to walk away. It's one of the hardest decisions I've made in a long time.
The venue threw in the towel after its public liability insurance went from $35,000 to more than $100,000 a year.
We've never had one claim. And to come back this year and say, it's going to cost you 3 times more than last year, we're like, well, you know what? We're not going to bother.
Recently, someone spilt a drink on our incredibly expensive mixing desk, and I had to choose between picking that desk up and paying for it or buying kegs of beer.
Liam Matthews has co-owned the Old Bar in Fitzroy for 17 years, a bar which nurtured bands like Camp Cope and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Liam has seen his premium go up from $9,000 to $50,000, draining the Old Bar's coffers. And despite never making a claim, Liam was told his venue was high risk.
The biggest thing for us is that we've been told that no one is allowed to dance while they're holding a drink. Like, are you allowed to move while you're holding a drink? What constitutes dancing when you're standing in front of a band?
Only a few global insurers now take on public liability insurance for venues, and these premiums are decided by the whims of the global market.
This is not just a problem in Australia or indeed in Melbourne, but it's a problem that we're seeing in a number of jurisdictions around the world.
There are a couple of key reasons for this. The global economy is under pressure, so there's less money in the insurance system. As a result, insurance companies are more risk averse. A report put out last year by APRA also found the cost of payouts after an injury had gone up significantly.
People think that it's a great big venue, we put on lots and lots of shows and there's lots of profit in it, but it's really not like that. We're always running on the skin of our teeth and the costs are really high.
Justin Stanford owns the Nightcap, 200 metres down the road from the Old Bar. Insurance companies don't share data on how many claims they settle each year. Anecdotally, industry bodies say there aren't that many. But 4 years ago, Justin's venue was one of them.
A young woman came in, she presented as sober, and after being in the venue for an hour, she decided she would do a cartwheel on the dance floor while she had a glass in her hand, and she cut her hand open. We tried to offer first aid. She refused any help at all. 3 months later, came back with a lawyer and sued us for public liability. My insurance company took on the case and they defended it by paying her $35,000. Then my premiums went from being $9,000 to $95,000.
Production up 20%, electricity up 20 to 30%, alcohol costs up similar amount. But the biggest one of all, of course, is the cost of insurance up anything from 50% to 800%.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There are solutions.
New Zealand, as we all know, has a thriving adventure tourism sector, and that's not because it's safer to do that in New Zealand, it's because they've undertaken the reforms a long time ago to cap claims, and therefore insurers are able to underwrite those businesses.
This can screw over people who are seriously injured, but it shows things can be done differently.
And it's this kind of law reform that would help cap claims and therefore cap the risk that insurers would face, and that will be reflected in lower premiums over time.
In the UK, the industry is lobbying the government to give a small percentage of big arena ticket sales to smaller venues. Australia wants to follow suit.
We would like to work with governments of all levels to take a tiny bit of that money and help transfer that back to those emerging artists.
Venues across the country are doing it tough, but in New South Wales, hope is on the horizon. The state government has cut liquor licence fees by 80%. Fed up music venues want to see similar actions from state and federal governments.
What are the kids going to do with their time? They're drinking at home. There's no responsible service of alcohol there.
Last week, the federal government announced an inquiry into Australia's live music industry. These issues and more will be on the table.
We're the live music capital of the world, we're the live music capital of Australia. You can't just keep using that while you're standing in front of the TV cameras without backing it up a little bit.
The night economy seems to be so important moving forward, and these are all those venues where young comedians, young DJs, young bands, young singer-songwriters start. So the logic of taking the money from the big shows, the big stadium gigs, and passing it down to the grassroots is no different to the AFL supporting kids' football, is it?
Stage time's so important for, like, if people don't have places to perform, young artists can't progress, they can't emerge, and it scares me to think about what could happen if these venues aren't available.
Do you think the last time you were at one of these venues and you saw someone that was other than a DJ?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I feel like these live venues are being so squeezed. In Sydney, it was lockout laws and cranky neighbours that have killed the live music scene, but we need to keep it going.
RIP the Annandale Hotel.